We're in the middle of the desert. I've been here about 5 or 6 times before, this particular spot. Everything is exactly the same because a lot of this stuff was just left and it was still here.
I mean, one of the interesting things of, designing worlds that kind of have a story arc over 3 films over a span of, 20 plus years is really figure out, okay, how do you make the designs work? And in episode 2, when Anakin goes back to visit his home, the design of the architecture and the homestead all look exactly the same, but you have to give it a little bit of a sense that time has passed, history has happened. And we did that by just, slightly altering stuff. So, for instance, when you go back and visit Watto's shop, it's not exactly the same environment, but you still have the same sense of history because when you go back, you are in some ways seeing the evolution of the planet as well.
Shut, Watto. Ting mi chasa hopa.
Tatooine is an interesting world in that we get a sense that it's a very old world. Old in the sense that the people that are living there have been there a long time, so the structures have been built up over time. And how do you create sort of a design aesthetic for a people that are kind of, basically just surviving? They're kind of on the outskirts of the known universe. Knowing that, they do have high technology, they have spaceships and stuff like that. What would they do? How would they modify their materials to create these gigantic structures? But maybe they don't have the building materials that we're used to. The whole design philosophy was kind of all about mud bricks, taking that and exaggerating the scale.
And we're set.
And action!
Jamel, Adam. Yeah, okay. Okay, once more.
One of the really fun design challenges was the Tusken Raiders. We were exposed to some of that in episode 4, but we didn't quite see, what they were about, their homestead and stuff like that. In episode 2, we actually got to go and really explore what they were in terms of their camp. And the design brief from George was that, these are, of course, nomads. They roam the desert. And the challenge was to really, how do you create sort of architecture and buildings and homes and stuff that kind of fit that lifestyle. So again, we went into research. We started looking at, okay, North American Indians, what do they do when they're sort of cleaning up and moving from location to location? And so we took the idea of, okay, maybe it's like something like a teepee structure, something that can be easily broken down, but yet is, at night can become a home. And so we started looking at that and started saying, okay, well, how can we take advantage of the exotic life that's on Tatooine? There's some of these gigantic creatures. And we thought, well, instead of, wood for the teepees, how about if there were giant tusks? And that started to create this sort of this weird dome-like shape that then we put animal skin on top of it. And by creating these teepee structures with these giant, enormous tusks, it started to create this very iconic image of teeth and flesh. And it was perfectly suited for what the Tusken Raiders were all about, because they're very aggressive, savage people. And so design works beautifully when you can have those elements imbued in the visual in addition to sort of the bigger scheme of, how does it actually work? When we saw Tatooine on episode 2, it was really well done. I mean, again, for me, being such a Star Wars fan, I love playing in this universe, and to see more and more of that get on the screen is a real joy.
Hello. How might I be of service? I am C.
3PO.
Oh, the Maker. Oh, Master Annie. I knew you would return.